Alright, so in this section we're going to start modeling the hands, and then we'll move on to the feet. So with the hands, we're going to model them separately, and you can just start with a box again. So I'm just going to click and drag to create a box, something like this. And we'll just kind of move this up to where the hand would go, right about here. I'm not going to rotate this, we're going to keep everything straight so it's easier to cut in our edge loops and block in the fingers and stuff. So if you've got your box up here kind of lined up with the wrist, it'll be easier to block things in. So we could add segments to this, but I'll just right click, convert to editable poly, and we'll manually cut segments in. So the first thing, I'm just going to move this out a bit. We need to start blocking in where we're going to extrude the thumb and the fingers and the wrist. So you can go ahead and grab all the edges and we'll hit connect. So I'll connect one through the middle for now. We're going to connect one around the back, so I'll hit ring and connect. And then we'll do one right around the outside of the box. So we'll hit ring, connect, and I'm going to start out by grabbing these back polygons here for the wrist area. And we'll just inset those a little bit, so you can right click on the inset amount, just hold Alt, and we'll pull this in a little bit like that, but then we're going to use the scale tool and we'll just scale this in to make it square. So we want to keep this as square as possible, and you can push it right out to the edges just about. And then from there we'll just take the four corner verts here to make this round. So you can scale it in like this, try to round this area out. You can scale the whole shape in again like that, and then we'll just pull this away from the hand. This will be the beginning of the wrist, and then we'll extrude with extrude settings, and you can just pull this out to about here. We can move this around after. I'm going to click OK. I'll right click and isolate for now, just so you can see. So I'm just pulling this out to here. This is going to get stuck inside the sleeve, and then we'll be skinning the hands to the rig separately. So I'm going to hit delete. This part can be open, and you can grab these verts and just scale them out a bit. So we'll be tapering the arm out like this, and then we'll connect a couple more edges in here. So I'll hit connect, use connect settings, and we'll just slide this back like that. Okay, so we'll throw one in there. You can hit apply and continue, or just hit OK, and then we'll put another one in there. And we'll slide that one back a little bit further. This just gives us enough edge loops so that the wrist will be able to allow the hand to bend here. Alright, so we'll come back to that part after. We're going to end up putting our thumb in here, and we're going to extrude the fingers from the ends. So we still need to divide this up a bit. So we'll just go ahead and grab an edge here. We'll hit ring and connect, and we'll just put one right in the middle here. And this is where we'll grab these four polygons here. We'll do another inset. Okay, so you can hold Alt and adjust the inset amount, and we'll just keep it really close to the base here. And we'll just grab the four corner verts and scale them in again. Alright, so we'll take those four polygons and extrude them out to the end of the thumb. Right now we're just blocking things in, so we'll just push it out like this, and we'll keep it simple in case we want to scale the whole hand or make any major changes right now. So we'll cut in the knuckles and reshape this after. Okay, so we'll leave it like that, and then we'll turn focus to the front here. So you can grab these polygons here, and we'll just kind of pull them out, make the hand a bit longer. This is where the fingers will be extruded from. So we'll push it out like that. And you can just take this middle edge here. So I'm going to right click and end isolate so we can see our drawing. Bob only has 3 fingers. Okay, so a really simple cartoon hand happening here. We're just going to take these two edges and chamfer them. So open up your chamfer settings, and in this case you can see the chamfer up here set to uniform, but we're going to change this to triangle. So that'll just get rid of the middle edge, and then we can slide this or adjust the amount. So you can hold Alt to slow that down, and we'll just try to keep this even. So we want 3 equal spaces for the fingers there. So something like that. You can click OK. We're going to take these polygons here and just scale them down a bit. And we want to try to make this as equal as possible in here. Okay, so you can scale it down. You can actually fan this out a bit because your hand kind of fans out at the knuckles there. But then for now, we're going to go ahead and take this middle vertex here, and we're just going to weld that back out of the way. So you can use target weld. We'll just weld it back to here for now. We're going to end up removing this after, but just for now we're going to weld that back, turn off target weld, and then we're going to divide these sections up so that we have 4 fingers. We want to be able to extrude it like the thumb. So I'm going to take these 3 edges, I'm going to go ahead and hit connect, make sure it's right in the middle, then click OK, and then do the same thing here. This time you can just hit the connect button. Okay, so we've connected all the way across here, so we need to inset each section to extrude the fingers. So I'm going to grab those 4 polygons to start. We'll open up the inset settings, and again you can hold Alt and adjust the amount. We want these to be really close to the edge again like this. So you can click OK and then go through and select, but you can hit apply and continue, the plus, and then just go over here, select, and then hold Control, select the 4 polygons here, hit apply and continue, and then do the same thing here, but this time hit OK. Okay, this way you can do all the insets without deselecting or closing the inset tool. So the next part is just to grab the 4 corner verts on the inside so we can make these round tube shapes for the fingers. And the easiest, quickest way to do this, if you have them selected, make sure you're set to view up here and you're on your scale tool. And we're going to right click on the scale tool, and if I start dragging this in and out, you can see if we bring this down to about 75, it's going to round out that section for us. So I'm going to hit undo. I'm going to keep this open, and just to make sure each section is exactly the same, I'm going to type in 75 and hit enter, and then I'll just go ahead and select the next 4 corner verts, punch in 75 and hit enter, and then we can just quickly do it like this. Alright, so we have the area blocked in for the fingers to be extruded from. So now we'll just grab all these polygons here. We're going to move these out a bit, so let's just use select and move and push them out away from the hand a bit. And then we're going to hit extrude settings, and we're going to push these all the way out to where the fingers should end roughly. Okay, so right now we're blocking things in. They're going to be even across here, but we're going to end up resizing each finger so that they're not straight across, looking like making the hand look like a fork. So I'm going to click OK, and what we'll do now is we're going to look at the hand here. We've got, this is the middle finger, so we're going to have our index here, which we're going to push back a little bit shorter, and then this would be like our pinky, so we're going to take the pinky finger and push that back even beyond where we've put the index finger. Alright, so this just adds a better shape to the fingers overall. And then once we've done this, we can easily cut in our knuckles. You can see now the thumb looks huge. So if you just grab polygons at the end of the thumb, you can hit grow. We can use the scale tool and just scale between X and Z. Okay, so we'll just resize the thumb like that for now. And again, we'll reshape all of this after. To cut in the knuckles now, we'll go here, and you can actually just select all the edges across fingers like this. And I'm going to hit connect settings, and we're going to drop in 2 segments, and this should space them out evenly for each finger. And then I'll click OK. And then we'll use chamfer settings, and we're going to chamfer these, but this time we're switching the chamfer mode back from triangle to uniform because we need that middle edge loop. We want 3 edge loops for each knuckle. Okay, so we can hold Alt and adjust the amount for the chamfer, but we want them to be spread out something like this. Okay, if they're too close, they're going to pinch. If they're too far away, they're just going to blend into each other. So we want something like this here. And then I'll click OK. You can do the same thing here for the thumb, but we're going to cheat with the thumb. So it's, again, it's a really cartoony hand. And I'm just going to cut in 1 knuckle. We just need the thumb to bend so the character can create a fist or pick objects up. So just for functioning purposes, we're putting a knuckle right through the middle here. So I'm going to make one segment. We're going to chamfer that again. And you can use pretty much the same settings that we had before. So I'll click OK. And then we've dropped in the area for the knuckle. So you'll notice that we're modeling the fingers with the knuckles very much the same way we did the elbow area and the knee area on the arm and legs. Okay, so at this point, I kind of want to change the color of the mesh so I can see the edges better, just like we did with everything else here. So I'll select the hand. I'm going to open up the material editor, and we'll just throw a default gray on here again. And then you can change the color here. You can just make it black. This will change the edges when it's deselected. And I'm going to rename it from box to hand for now. And then this is easier to look at as we're modeling, I think. So you can grab this and go ahead and add open subdivision to it. We'll set the iterations to 2, and you can see what's happening for now. So if I hit Shift Q and render, this is kind of what it looks like at this point. But we need to clean up a lot of the edges around here. The hand still looks very boxy, even when it's subdivided. So we're going to have to push and pull some edges and verts around to reshape it. But the first thing is we're going to have a look at the knuckles and try to taper these at the bottom. This will help with the skinning after as well. And we need to reflow the edges through the hand here. Okay, so we have an end-gon up here. This is a quad, but we need to get rid of these end-gons, and we need to cut in more edges so that the hand can actually bend properly. So we'll start by cleaning up the knuckles, and a quick trick for this, go ahead and select all the edge loops in the front of each knuckle. You can do this all the way across. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on edge constraints, and then I'll use the rotate tool, and I'll just rotate this back a bit, and you'll see that it keeps it stuck to the edges inside of there. But then I'm going to take all of them and move them back at the same time. So this is going to taper the bottom underneath the finger here where the knuckle is. So when the character's fingers bend, this will crease nicely, but the knuckle on top will spread instead of creasing as the fingers bend. So we'll do the same thing for the back edge of each knuckle. So I'm just holding control, double clicking, and then we'll rotate this one back, something like this. Try to keep them even, and then we'll push this in. So this is going to create the taper underneath, and it'll help spread out the knuckle on the top. Alright, so if we turn on show and result, you can see we don't see any indent or anything in here yet, but if you grab, you can turn off show and result, just grab the 2 edges in the middle on the bottom of each knuckle. So we can do them all at the same time. This time we're turning off the edge constraint, so switching it back to none. And you can just kind of push this up a bit to create a little indent in here. If you turn on show and result, you can see what it looks like. You can hit Shift Q to render, and just see we're creating a little indent for the knuckle areas in between for each finger. Okay, so you can even push this a little further if you want to turn on scale and switch this from view to local. And if you want to turn off show and result to see what's happening here, we're scaling these locally. Just scale them in a bit on the Y, and that'll create even more of an indent and more of a better shape for the bottom of these knuckles. Okay, so you can hit Shift Q, and now you can see what the fingers are starting to look like. Okay, so if you've gone too far, you can go in and fix it, push it out, or just drop these edges back down a bit. So it's just a subtle crease. But we can come back to these after and refine them even more. Okay, so these knuckles are blocked in. We're going to need more edge loops around the base of the finger here. So before we do that, let's grab these edge loops here. And we'll just scale them out a little bit just to taper the fingers up towards the base of the hand. Okay, so something like this if you're looking at the side. And then after that, we'll go ahead and grab all the edges at the same time through each finger, and you can hit connect, make sure it's connect settings, and slide this back towards the base. Okay, so slide to the bottom one. Just slide it in like this, and just keep these ones kind of spread out. And you could even grab these inner edge loops. Just make sure these are spread out a bit, something like this. And then if you turn on show and result, this is what it's looking like. You can see it's a little bit lumpy here, and the side of the hand still has a box shape to it. We're going to fix that after. But the next thing we'll want to do is reflow the edges so that these edges run back to the wrist, and then we can create the quads that we need for in here. Alright, so at this point we might as well save the file. I'm going to save this as Bob Hand, or Bob Hands, and then we'll bump this up to file number 25. We have lots of backups at this point. Hit save, then next time we'll just hit the plus again. So the next step we want to do is we want to clean up the edges on the back and bottom, or top and bottom of the hand. Okay, so we've got new edges cut in here from when we extruded the fingers. So we can take these two edges here now on the top and the bottom. Just hold Control and hit remove, and we're going to add some edge loops through the center here. So let's just grab all the edges here, and we'll hit connect settings, and we'll add 2 segments which will kind of pinch together and slide back a bit. So it's just going to make sure that the hand can crease and bend properly in the middle. And then I'll click OK. And from here, we still have them all selected like this, but we're going to grab the top 2 edges and hit connect. And we'll center 1 segment. Click OK. And then you can grab the 2 verts here in the middle of this open area. Hold Control Shift E. That will connect the edges, and we'll do the same thing here. So Control Shift E and just connect that right down the middle. Do the exact same thing on the bottom. So you can grab these 2 edges here, hit connect, and then select these verts, and Control Shift E is the shortcut for connect. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to cut the vertices in the middle of each finger and the edge loop in the middle of each finger. We need to cut these all the way down, and then we're going to connect them up and force quads into this section here by the wrist. So the easy way to do this is to grab the edges all the way down to here, and you can actually go right to the bottom here, and we'll hit connect. We'll add 2 segments just like that. We'll do the same thing on this side. And then we can do the same thing on the bottom, going all the way back to here. If you hit the connect button, it'll remember the settings from last time. And then again, we're going to connect the verts across here with Control-Shift-E. So this is cleaning up this whole top end of the hand. And we've got quads running right through here. So this will subdivide properly and deform properly. And then we just have to clean this up at the back here. So all you need to do here, it actually works out to be pretty simple. You're just going to grab the vertex here towards the middle, hold Control and select this vertex on the top corner of the wrist, Control-Shift-E. Okay, so that's going to give us a quad here, and this is actually a quad as well. Okay, so there's 4 sides here, and then we can clean this up a bit more after. So just go ahead and connect these all up. So Control-Shift-E. So do the same thing on the bottom. So we're going to the outside corner here, Control-Shift-E and Control-Shift-E. All right, on the top, you can take these edges here, or sorry, these vertices here, we're going to take and we're going to move up on the X, just like this. Okay, so that creates kind of a nice flowing edge loop right through to the back of the hand. And then we'll do the same thing on the bottom. So just grab these ones here, move them up like this, and it gives us a nice edge loop wrapping through here. And now we've cleaned the hand up so that it's all quads. And then if you turn on show and result, open subdivision looks like this. If you hit render, we're getting something like this. So the next step is to round out the shape of the hand, because right now it still looks like a box, and we can do that by just grabbing the edges around this outside edge of the box area and just pushing them down and in. So a quick way to do this as well, we're going to right click and isolate the hand, and if you can rotate yourself in perspective onto a view like this where you can click and drag, you should be able to select all the verts across one edge of the hand. So I'm going to grab all the verts across the top edge, and then I'll grab the verts across the bottom like this. Just make sure you only have those verts selected. And if you do the same thing on the other side, it's like grabbing all the corner verts of a box that we want to make round. Alright, so we're going to use the scale tool, and then we'll scale these on X and Y, and you can see what we're trying to do here. So you can scale them in like this. If you want to scale them down, you can make it even rounder on the edges outside here. And then if you turn on show and result, you can see what it looks like with open subdivision turned on. Okay, so you can see where we need to go around and still change a few things, move some edges in and just reshape the hand. But we'll keep coming back to that as we go. So I'm going to turn off show and result and just have a look here. So I'm going to continue to go around and just kind of push and reshape some of this. And you can do it just by grabbing edges and pushing parts around. So underneath here you might want to have the middle in the palm of the hand kind of indent a bit. So this is where you can always go in, select edges like this, move them. You can turn on soft selection and then just adjust the fall off, and then you can grab kind of a whole area like this and just softly push it in like that to create indents. And then I would turn that off afterwards. Turning on show and result, you can see how far you want to push and pull things in. And if you kind of look from the top view, you can reshape the side of the hand just by grabbing verts in groups like this. Okay, so just want to make sure I'm grabbing the whole side and pushing, pulling things around. So I'm going to round out this edge of the hand here. Okay, so we can continue doing that. We'll come back to that after. Let's have a look at the base of the thumb. Okay, so first of all, just looking at this with show end result turned on, the thumb looks a little big. So you can rescale or resize the thumb just by grabbing all the polygons inside of here. And you can just scale them down. Okay, so you can scale it like this, and you can move the thumb back a bit. And then we're going to wrap another edge loop in close to the base here, so that when we rig this with the bones, we want to make sure that the thumb can bend and deform properly from here. So we need another edge loop in here. We'll hit connect settings and just slide that towards the base like this. And we could put another one on this side as well, just to help with the thumb deforming and bending here. So we can hit ring, we can connect, put that one pretty much in the middle. If you want to round that out, you can just grab your corner verts here and scale them towards each other. So you get something like this. And even this outside edge here, so looking around here, I'm going to go ahead and grab the verts and just start kind of spreading this out a bit and creating more of a web shape for this section in here. And I'm just going to keep turning on show end result to see what it looks like. You can hit render. Okay, so you can see I kind of want to take these edge loops and scale them out because this is tapering too much. So you can take your edge loops around the base, even that first one that we put in here, and just kind of scale them out a little bit and resize this so that the thumb tapers down from the hand. So you get more of a shape like this. Okay, so notice I haven't pushed the edges up for the knuckle on this one like I did with these fingers here. So again, you can do the same thing where you grab an edge loop and turn on edge constraints under edit geometry, and you can just rotate this back a little bit and move it in, and this will taper the bottom of the knuckle for the thumb. Do the same thing on this side so that you get something like that. And then for the indent, I might push this up a little bit, but not too much. It'll just look weird if we have too much of a crease in here. If you're going to push this up, you have to turn your edge constraints off. And I'll just slightly push this up and see what it looks like subdivided. You can hit render. Alright, so I'll probably come back and reshape that even further. So looking at this dip in the top of the thumb here, this is where you can go ahead and grab some of these edges and just pull them up so it's a little more flush with the hand. So it's more of a gradual slope down to the thumb. Okay, so we're at the point now where we have most of our edges cut in. We're just kind of shaping and sculpting the hand here. So the very tips of each finger, right now they look very boxy and almost indented, and this is where you can grab the verts at the end and just kind of pull them out a bit. Just to help the shape here, you can round this out. And if you really want to help keep the shape at the tip of the fingers, you could put another edge loop at the end of each finger. So you can do these all at the same time. If I hit ring, connect settings, and then slide this towards the end like this, and you'll just see what that does here. Okay, so if I slide this in, it's going to force the shape at the end of the finger. And then I could pull these verts out a bit. Depending on the type of hand that you're modeling, especially for your own characters, you might want to kind of push these bottom 3 verts around at the tip of each finger. And if you do that, you can turn on show and result, but you can kind of push these like this to create a different shape for the fingertip. If you want it to slope a bit, pull them up like that. And I can even push or pull these top polygons out and just get a better fingertip shape. Do the same thing with the thumb if you want. I won't push this too far in, but if you wanted to add that supporting edge loop towards the end, you can. You just drop it in something like that, and then you can take the verts on the bottom, turn on show and result, just kind of push them around like this. Take those quads on the top here, or polygons, and push them out. And then you can get a better shape for the thumb like this as well. So you could spend as much time as you want just reshaping the hand and trying to make the hand look, or the fingers look as good as you want. But if we turn on show and result and hit render and see what we have now, this isn't too bad. We're getting close. So I might resize and rescale a few things still, but we're getting very close to being finished with this hand. Okay, so we'll just do a couple more tweaks to the hand. The way we've tapered these knuckles in, I want to make sure that this knuckle here is tapered in very similar. So I'll go ahead and grab these edge loops here. You can turn on the edge constraint, and we're just going to rotate these back a bit and then move them over. So we'll get the same kind of taper effect under here. And I'm going to double click these edge loops and just make sure that they're scaled properly. So you're going to have to turn off edge constraint if you're scaling them like this. Make sure that they're not scaled out too big. Okay, so at this point we can right click and end isolate. And we're just going to check the scale overall. So if we need to scale the whole hand down, we can select it as an element, and this is the safe way to scale, because we're going to rig and skin this hand. We need to make sure we're scaling using the sub-object modes here. And then if you wanted to taper in that wrist a bit more, you can select some polygons and hit grow till you get out to the edge of the wrist like this, and then just scale this down along X and Y. Okay, so I might scale that in a bit more. Turn on show and result. And this is kind of where you want to go through and just do one last cleanup. Make sure that the hand shape is where you want it to be, so you can push and pull verts around again. So make sure that the overall shape of the hand, you're happy with it before we copy it over. So again, just kind of rotate around, double check your edges, make sure it doesn't look like a box. Try to smooth things out as much as you possibly can. Especially looking at the edges and the corners along the outside of the hand where it was a box at one point. And just trying to make sure it's as smooth and organic as possible. Okay, so a couple more test renders, just hit Shift Q. So far this looks okay. If we add the same material that we have on his head so far, and just kind of see what it looks like from there. Alright, so that's not too bad for the hand at this point. I'll point out one more thing that doesn't really apply to the Bob character, but let's just say you had a character that had fingernails. Okay, I'll do a quick example of how you could do a fingernail. So you could model the fingernail and attach it, but if you wanted to extrude it from the end of the finger, you could just grab a couple polygons like this. If you do a quick inset and just keep this tight, it'll give you some inset polygons that you can extrude down to get a shape like this that you could then kind of rotate up on an angle. And if I just kind of pull this out like that, turn on show end result, you can see what it looks like right now. But what I want to do is take the ends here and just extrude them. So if you push these out, something like that, you get kind of a fingernail like this. And of course I could go back here, grab these verts and just pull them back a bit to reshape this so there's more of an arc here. Alright, so it's just an example of how you could quickly model in a fingernail if you need them. So Bob obviously doesn't have fingernails that we're going to model in here, so I'm going to undo that. And then we'll call this done for now. We could always go back and clean some of this up, but we're going to leave it like that. I'm going to save the file and then we'll copy or mirror this hand over. Okay, so before I copy this over, I'm just going to rotate this and line it up with the shirt better. So you can go to the front view for that. And I'll just move this down into place. Pull this back into the sleeve a bit. If it helps, you can select the shirt and hit Alt-X. And just make sure that it's sitting back something like that. So even on the drawing, you can see how far his hand sticks out from the sleeve. So something like this. If you get it lined up nicely in the front view, and a quick easy way to do this is to make sure that the center edge loops line up between the arm and the hand, or at least as close as you can get it. And then you can check from the top view, just make sure it's in the middle here. And again, if you hit F4 and see the edges, you can line up your edges in the middle here as well. So it should be pretty close. Once you get it lined up like that, we can go ahead and mirror it to the other side. So what we'll do is we'll take this hand here. We're going to take the hand and we're going to center the pivot point. So go up to Hierarchy. And then we'll go to Effect Pivot Only. We'll right click on Select and Move, and we'll center by resetting X, Y, and Z to 0. Then right click on rotate and reset Y to 0. Alright, so that straightens everything out and centers the pivot point to the middle of the grid. And then we'll just take this hand, and for now we'll just mirror a copy. So I'm going to click mirror, make sure it's set to copy. We want them to be two separate hands, and then we'll leave them like that for now, and we'll come back and deal with them once we unwrap them. Okay, so from here we're going to move on to the feet, and the feet are pretty easy to do. We'll just make sure we save the file again, and then we can move on from here. Alright, so the shoes are pretty simple. You can see the design of Bob's shoe here in the drawings. So again, we'll just start with a box. Keep it nice and simple in the beginning. Go to the left view, and we'll just make sure that this is lining up. So you can take this box, convert it to editable poly, and we'll just start by cutting in some quick edge loops in this view. So you can hit connect, and we'll just put in 2 edge loops for now. And then I'm going to take the verts on the back at the top here and just kind of pull them up and just kind of block in the shape of the shoe for now. So you can push this out to the edge of the drawing like that. And if you want to pull that bottom one up, you can. And then we'll throw another edge loop through this section here. So we'll set that to 1. And just pull this down just to kind of compensate for the curve in this shoe. Alright, so if you jump to the front view, we'll just make sure that this is kind of lining up here. Just make sure it lines up with the model. So we want the pants to fit over the shoe. I'm going to grab one of the edges in the middle here and hit ring and connect, and we'll put one edge right through the middle of the shoe like this. Alright, so let's hide other parts of Bob here. So I'm going to grab everything from the top down and hide it, and we'll just focus on the shoe. If you want to put the default gray material on there now, you can, and then change the color to black just so that the edges are black. And we need to model this top opening for the shoe here and make it round. So from this point, you can go ahead and hit ring and connect. We'll put an edge loop right through the middle here. And we can start by taking these polygons here and we'll just inset them a bit. Okay, so again, hold Alt, just inset like this to make the opening part of the shoe. But then we'll take the corner verts and scale them in again on X and Y. And we'll just make sure this is a round shape. And if you want to push this out to the edge closer, you can, but we're going to hit delete, and that's going to create the opening for the shoe. Alright, so you can take this border here and you can quickly just hold shift and drag this down to create the inside of the shoe. I'm going to do this twice just to create an edge loop in there. You could even tuck this in by scaling it back a bit, but if it clips through here, you don't want to have it doing that, so I'll just leave it like this for now. And we'll make the back rounder just by grabbing this edge here and pulling it out. And even on the sides here, I'm going to grab the verts here and here, and the same ones over here. And we'll just scale them away from each other and just create more of a round shape here. Okay, so if you want to scale the opening a little further out, you can select a polygon, hold shift to grab a loop of polygons. If you hit grow, push it out to the edge like that, and just scale this out a bit further. We'll keep tweaking this opening as we go. But this part here, I want to pull that out as well. And again, we're just blocking in the shape of the shoe so far. So I'll take an edge here. I'm going to hit ring. And we'll just connect another edge loop right through the middle of the shoe going this way. Okay, so at the front, right now the shoe looks very square still, and we can add open subdivision at this point. Okay, open subdivision set with 2 iterations makes the shoe look a little better, but we still need to sculpt and shape the edges here. So if you go back to editable poly, I'm just going to start taking verts along the edges here. Okay, so these 3 and then these 3 here for now. And we'll just scale them in. And if you take the ones in the middle here, these 2, we just pull them up a bit. And we're starting to create more of a smooth slope around the top of the shoe here. Okay, so on the edges here, it's starting to wrap around instead of looking like a box. So again, we'll have to fix the ends here. We're going to have to grab all the verts on the front and just scale them in. So we're starting to get that pointy tip on the shoe. And just kind of looking from the top down, you can grab the next row of verts, scale them in like this. So we're just getting the shape of the shoe kind of fleshed out here. And if you look at it with open subdivision, this is what it's looking like now. So there's a couple things to do now. We need to make the little heel part of the shoe. So that part will be a little bit tricky. We're going to want the bottom of the shoe to stay flat and have a hard edge around the outside of the sole of the shoe. And when the character walks, we need the shoe to bend because the foot needs to roll as the character walks forward. So we're going to need to add another edge loop through the middle here. And then we'll put another one right in between here. Alright, so that kind of gives us these 3 edge loops through here. Okay, so I'm looking at these ones here. And this will allow the foot to roll as the character is walking. Alright, so for the heel, if we go to the left view, we can hit Alt X, you can kind of see where we need to cut this heel in. And it almost lines up with this section here. And you can even take that and just kind of move all of this back a bit. We'll just force it to line up a bit better. Okay, you can see how the back of the heel is kind of curved like this. So we can fix all that stuff after, but if you grab these verts at the top, we can start pushing things over like this. And at this point, we're kind of tracing the drawing again. If you're going to do that, you should turn on Show on Result to see how much it's pulling the mesh in. And then we can line it up better this way. Alright, so in this area here, we're going to extrude the heel down. So the best thing to do, if we know we're going to extrude down a bit, we're going to grab these polygons here and we'll just kind of push them up. You can see where the heel meets the top here. There'd be a bit of a slope under the shoe, which you can kind of push these verts up just to follow that better. Okay, so you get something like that. So we're going to extrude the heel from the bottom here. So if we go underneath here, we can grab these 4 polygons. I'll hit Alt X so you can see it better. And we're just going to extrude this down. So I'll actually reset that, hold Alt and just push it down a bit like this. Keep it selected, go to the left view and zoom in. And we'll just make sure this is flat on the bottom like this. So we'll actually line it up with the grid so that when the character's standing, the heel is flat on the ground. And then we can keep it like that. So if we go to perspective, you can see we have this heel. And if we turn on Show on Result, this is what it looks like smoothed out. So we're going to add some supporting edge loops in here to make sure it's not pulling too much back. So you can grab an edge here and hit ring and use connect settings And we'll push this one towards the bottom of the heel like that. And then we'll just throw another one on top of it. This one will slide up like this. Okay, so these are supporting edge loops, so when we subdivide, it's starting to look like this. But we really want this area to be flat, and we want to have a sharp edge in here. So I'm going to end up selecting an edge here and hitting ring. So it goes all the way around. We're going to hit connect settings and slide this over like that, and that's another supporting edge loop in there. And we'll have to do the same thing on the edges here. So I'm going to hit ring, connect, keep that tight to the edge, do one over here, ring, connect, tight to that edge, and this will force the shape in here when we subdivide. Okay, so just keep in mind we have these edges all the way around the shoe now. So if I turn on show on result, you can see what it's doing to the edge here. So this looks good underneath, but we need to make sure that we spread these out a bit up here. So a quick way to do that is to just grab the 3 verts on the front like this. So starting from the front, we'll just scale in without using edge constraints. Okay, so it gives us a few extra verts here that we can use to help shape the tip of the shoe as well. But then moving along the top of the shoe, we need to grab these and spread them out better. Okay, so otherwise we're going to get a sharp edge around the top of the shoe. And at this point here, we can turn on edge constraints, and I'm just going to go through and do these section by section. So I'm going to scale those verts in like that, then go to the next set here, and try to keep them right in the middle of the polygons here. So you could do a few at a time if you grab them like this. Just make sure they line up in the middle. And same thing with these ones. Okay, and I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to make sure I go right inside here and get these ones as well. Okay, so we've spread out these edges up here, but we still have the tight supporting edges underneath. And if I turn on show on result, you can see how the edge of the shoe looks better down here. We've got this hard edge at the back that we can spread out as well. And this one here is from wrapping underneath here. And we'll just leave edge constraints turned on, and we'll just start pushing these over. Okay, so it's actually the inside one that we want here. So let's just double click the loop to make sure we're grabbing the right one. So it's this one here that we want. So you can start from the inside and we'll work our way out. But if I grab these 3 here and these 3, scale them in like this till they're in the middles, and then we'll grab these ones here. And you can probably go right to the bottom here just to speed it up. Okay, so those edges that we just put in here will also help to create more of an arc on the back of the heel. So we'll pull them out after. If I turn on show on result, let's just make sure that this isn't getting messed up at the bottom here. Okay, so we can get away with this here, this is fine. But we could also take these and put them back towards the edge like this. And show on result, and you can see what it looks like. And if I hit undo, you can see it actually looks better if we leave it spread out like that. Alright, so these, I'm going to turn off edge constraints. And we'll take all these verts here. So you can grab that side and this side here, just so you can see what I'm grabbing. We're grabbing everything down here. And I'm going to push them back a bit like this, just to create a better arc on the back of the shoe. And same thing for the bottom. So you can hit render, see what it looks like. Okay, so we're getting close. We need to clean up some edges in here still. But at this point we can go around the shoe and just keep fixing the edges. Try to get away from that box look. Okay, so you can grab edges like this even and just start to drop them. If I drop an edge like that, I'm going to have to go and adjust the verts around it. And you could go around the whole outside area of this shoe, and we can kind of slope this down a bit. Something like that. Just keep turning on show end result. So you can see the opening in the shoe. We want to make that a little more round. And that's where you can grab these corner bits here and pull them in. You could even grab these as polygons like this. And I'll just pull this back like that. So if you select as vertex, it's easier to scale them together. Because again, I'm not using symmetry right now. I'm just working on both halves at the same time. But I can scale things in and out like this by selecting the verts. This overall shape in here, you could actually grab a polygon, hold shift to get a loop, hit grow, and you can scale it in and out like this as well. So for the most part, this is going to get hidden underneath the pants and we're not going to see this. So you don't have to struggle too much with this, but I'm just trying to keep it as organized as possible. So the next part I want to focus on is this area in here at the edge, or at the side here, this edge that's dented in. We need to fix that, and if we hit render, we can see it more on the render. So if I hit F4 and go back to edges, I'm going to turn on or turn off show end result. So this edge here, these two edges here, and the same on this side, we just want to pull those back. Okay, I don't want to lose my supporting edges down here. I want to keep the hard creases, but I want this area to spread out a bit better. So I'm going to turn on edge constraints and I'll just move these back here like this, kind of in the middle. Okay, so it's pulling this vert over here, but we should be able to keep our hard edges down here with that. So if I turn on show end result, you can see how that pretty much eliminates that hard crease in there. We're seeing one down at the bottom here now, slightly. So I'm going to go to the left view, turn off show end result, and here where we have these two tight edges here, I'm just going to take all the verts in this section and I'm going to move these up and just kind of spread that out as well. Okay, so we get something like this. If I go back to perspective, turn on show end result, this now looks a lot better on the sides, and if I hit shift Q, this is looking better in here. Once we add materials or texture this, it's going to look even better, especially with the lighting. But at this point, this is what we want the shoe to look like as far as the bottom goes. Okay, so I want to start to clean up the overall shape of the shoe at this point. So I'm going to improve the point on the tip of the shoe. I want to make sure that these edge loops wrapping around the shoe are creating more of an arc, so it's nice and smooth. Right now it's kind of jagged. I'm going to clean up areas around the opening of the shoe, make sure that the back is rounder, and then I'm going to have a supporting edge loop that cuts through here as well. So let's just start by going around while it's still fairly simple and fixing the arcs on these edge loops. So just starting from the front here, I'm just going to start pulling verts up. I'm going to turn off edge constraints and I'm just going to start to improve the overall arc and smooth shape of the top of the shoe here. Okay, so you can grab all these verts in here and just kind of pull them up. create a better arc. And I'm going to go to ones on the outer edge like this and pull them back down. And I'm just trying to create a smooth arc over the surface. Okay, so I'm always looking at different angles, trying to look at the overall shape of my edges. And if you can get it to something like this, then when you turn on show end result, it should be nice and smooth. And then I want to focus on the tip here. I'm going to hit L to go to the left view. And I'm just going to, you can hit Alt X, you just want to make sure that you're lining this up close to the drawing still. Okay, so this should kind of come up on an angle like this. And if we go to perspective, hit Alt X, we have all these extra edges in here now. I'm going to start cutting some of these back, just kind of looking from the bottom. I just want to start pulling some of these back like this, creating an arc along the top of the toe area here. Okay, so if you do it there, you're going to have to do it here as well. And same thing with down at the bottom there. And we'll just gradually do this less and less as we get to the bottom here. Okay, so again, this is our supporting edge loop here that holds the shape at the bottom there, but it's going to gradually smooth out on the front. And we'll hit Shift Q, make sure we get some renders going on. So if you see any pinching, you'll have to go in and fix that. Okay, so down here I might spread this out a bit more. Maybe just take these ones and scale them out. Turn on show end result, might be easier to see what's going on here. Okay, so I'm going to push these ones out a bit. This is where at the bottom we have those supporting edge loops. So we just have to kind of push these around here to straighten this all up. Okay, so we've got something like this. You can see kind of a hard edge along the top here. So I'm going to start pushing these down to create more of an arc over the toe here. Okay, so we've got something going on like this. And I'm going to spread this part out here as well. Okay, so just keep turning on show end result. You want to see it with open subdivision on, because this is the final result we're looking for, something more like this. Alright, so we're getting close. On the side here, I just wanted to throw one more edge loop through here, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and connect, but I'm going to slide this back close to here. Just want this to keep the shape of the shoe from this point down as I continue to push the edges around at the top here. Okay, so this, I have my nice arcs here. This will be the last edge loop, keeping those arcs. So I can push the verts down like this, taper them in a little bit. So in here, we can tuck those in a bit. So at this point, there's no point in me messing around with this until I unhide the pants, because I'm not really sure where I have to push those two yet, but at the back you can clearly see where if I hit Shift Q, we can probably push some of these verts out a bit, and it might be easier from the top view. Just try to make it a little more round back here. If you hit Alt X, you can see through to make sure you're grabbing all the verts. So you can see if I push this down, it's just making more of a round shape back here. You can grab these ones and do the same thing. If you want to spread them out, just scale them away like this. And I might grab the inner edges and just push them up like this, or inner verts. Okay, you can see where these ones are really close, so I want to spread those out. I definitely want to push those up like this and then scale them in just to keep a nice opening there. Okay. So again, most of this will be hidden by the top of the pants, so we don't have to sit here and struggle with it too much. But at the same time, once you model this shoe, you can always use this as a base for another shoe later. Same thing with those hands. We can always use those on a different character. You can modify them. You might have heard the term kit bashing. That's where you're taking parts from other models and throwing them together. And I mean, you modeled this, so it's your piece of work anyways. So you shouldn't feel bad about kit bashing your own work. Okay, so open subdivision, we're looking like this. I'm going to do one more quick lineup on the left view, and then we're going to unhide the pants. So let's just check one more time here. Hit Alt X. Under vertex, we're going to just pull this down one more time, just lining it up with the drawing to get the proper shape of Bob's shoe. So if you do it through the top, just start gradually pulling the middle down as well. This edge loop should run through the middle, keeping it nicely spaced out. Always looking for these nice arcs running through things, especially with organic models. Okay, Alt X, go to perspective. We'll do one more render here. So to me, this is okay. This is good enough for Bob's shoe at this point, but let's unhide all. And then from the left view again, you can see where we're not quite fitting or lining up with the pants. So I'm going to go in here and start grabbing large sections of the verts up at the top here. And I'm just going to try to make sure it fits underneath there better. Okay, so you can grab, let's isolate the shoe for a minute. And it might be easier if you grab all these polygons like this, and then we'll grow them out to the top. And we can go back to the left view. We'll right click and end isolate. You can right click on the scale tool to just scale this all down. And then you can move this whole section around like this. So we need to make sure it fits under the pants as best as possible. If you want to turn on show on result, that might help as well. So I'm going to take this section and just drop it down a bit. And from here you can see I'm pushing the shoe down too far. So let's hit undo on that. Just go down about this far here and then move those. And instead let's go back to our pants. Okay, so let's grab our pants at this point and make sure that the pants fit over top. If you're in the left view, you can select by vertex. You can just grab all the verts here. Make sure that they fit over top of the shoe like this. We're going to end up skinning it so that the pants kind of stick over the shoe and hide any gaps or holes in here, so we don't have to worry about modeling socks or legs or anything like that. Okay, so this is where we can do this. Go to the front view. Make sure that it works out here as well without messing our pants up. You can grab edge loops like this, and if you feel like you need to scale them in at all, you can. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so I think that's pretty good, and once we skin this, that's going to work out nicely. Alright, so if you really wanted to, you could always create more of a thickness under here. We're not going to do this, but if I held shift and pulled that in and then extruded this up, you'd get more of a roll under the pants at the bottom. Okay, so if I did that here, I'd have to do the same thing on that side. That's not necessary, you don't have to do that, but when you're doing your own character, you might want to think about things like that. Maybe the base of the pants or even the edge of your shirt might be a little thicker, and that's just something you could do. That's kind of what we did with the shirt up here to get it to puff out like that. And even that, I could still pull things around and make that fit better. Okay, so we'll have one more overall look at the entire model once everything's finished before we unwrap it, and definitely before we rig it. Alright, so here's the shoe at this point. If I just slide that shoe back a little bit, okay, at this point I'm ignoring the drawings and I'm just focused on the model. You can see what we have here. So let's name this one Bob underscore shoe underscore R for right, because that's his right shoe. And then we'll go ahead and mirror a copy. Okay, so we're going to make a copy, and we're going to be flipping it in the X, clicking OK, and again let's hit cancel. Let's do this the same way we did the hands. Let's grab that shoe, go to hierarchy, effect pivot only, and then we're going to right click on select and move and center it in the middle of the grid. Alright, so then from there we can mirror, and we'll be making a copy on the exact place it needs to be on the other side. Okay, so that you can see it looks pretty good. There's one thing I'd like to do to fix this, so I'm going to delete this. Just a minor thing. I'm going to go into the verts on this side of the shoe, and just to kind of make it look like a left and right shoe, I'm going to very carefully select these verts here, and actually I can even see right here from this angle. I want to pull that back, kind of straighten these out, make those curves better. Okay, it's all the little details that matter. Okay, I'm going to turn on show on result, but I want to push this side in a little bit. So if you go to soft selection, you could even use soft selection here and just push this out a little bit. Okay, so I'm just affecting this region of verts. Turn on show on result, and we'll just kind of push this side of the foot in a little bit. And it might be better to grab the verts on the bottom as well, on this side. And just kind of curve the foot like that. Okay, so I might grab a bigger section like this, or even push the fall off out further. Something like this. Okay, just a little curve in there. Turn off show on result, see, make sure this is all straight. And if you want to turn off soft selection, you can force a better curve in here. Okay, it's the slightest little curve, but it'll just help to show left and right feet. Okay, very, very subtle curve. Alright, so now if I take this, I'll double check that the pivot is still in the middle. And then it's still named Bob Shoe Right. We're going to mirror, making a copy. Okay, so they're two separate objects now. And this one is Bob Shoe L for left. Alright, so at this point, this is what Bob is looking like. We've got the hands in there, we've got shoes, we've got the whole character modeled. If you want to do a quick overview, if there's anything you want to adjust, like the pants, or if you want to double check areas of your shirt, The next thing we're going to do is unwrap, and then we're going to start skinning the character. So this is kind of your last chance to go through, just push things around. Okay, especially if you go back to things like the shirt, we haven't worked on this in a few days or even a week. So it's a good chance to kind of look at things and fix anything you might want to fix. If I'm going to save the file and I'm going to show one thing with symmetry here. So let's save this. We'll do one last thing here. Okay, so let's just say I grab the shirt. Let's just say you've been working away on this and you notice that it's not quite symmetrical for some reason. Okay, so maybe you've been working on one side and not the other, or something's happened. You can add the symmetry modifier. We can always go back and cut this in half and weld it together again, but if you go down to editable poly, you can add the symmetry modifier, and I've been trying to avoid this as much as possible, but it should work if everything is perfectly centered. So if your pivot's centered and everything else is centered, symmetry should work. Just make sure you right click on threshold and tap it up once, just like any other time we weld verts together. You want the lowest possible threshold. And then depending which side of the model you want to have symmetry affecting, right now, like say we're working on this side of the model, I'd have to hit flip. Alright, so just to show that, if I go down to vertex and turn on show on result, I'm going to turn off open subdivision for a minute. If I'm working on this side here, you can see it's going to update on that side as well. Okay, so you can see if I pull things underneath, the final mesh versus the cage I'm working on here. So this is my chance again to go in and just kind of tweak the shirt, make sure everything works out nicely, using symmetry this time. Might pull that in a bit more. Let's turn on open subdivision to see what it looks like with that too. Make sure you don't move the center verts off the center, because that's going to mess your symmetry up really bad. Okay, so you can see I've already screwed this up, and that's probably from moving one of the verts off the center. So if I right click on select and move, you can see Y is in and out, Z is up and down, X is left and right. That should be set to 0. This one should also be set to 0, and that cleans that up. It's very important to make sure that those verts are in the middle. Okay, so you can move them up and down, but don't move them left or right. That's going to mess the symmetry up really bad. If you want it to be 100% sure, you can hit F to go to the front view, and I could isolate the shirt, and I could just click and drag to select all the verts down the middle, and then just carefully deselect any verts that are not part of the middle. And you should be able to right click on select and move and set X to 0. Okay, so if this is anywhere other than 0, you're going to see symmetry is not working. Alright, so that looks good. Going to end isolate. Let's have one more look around here. I thought I saw something that I didn't like, but now I don't see it anymore. So the other big thing, let's just go to the left view here. Okay, again, little things that I want to fix before it's too late, things like this. So let's go perspective. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for the shirt. I've got symmetry in here, so I'm going to bake symmetry down. I'm going to turn off vertex. I'm going to go up to symmetry. I'm going to right click and collapse to. So here's the hold yes versus yes option. Sometimes these modifiers, when you collapse them, you can't undo. If you click hold yes, it's going to hold the modifier there so that you can undo. So I always click hold yes. And this way it's non-destructive. Alright, so I think that is pretty much it. Alright, so again, you can spend as much time as you want trying to make this as perfect as possible. Oh, the one thing I saw that I don't like is the knees on the character. So I'm going to hit F to go to the front view. Notice how he's kind of bow-legged. I know I did add that in during the modeling process, but now that I'm looking at it, again, we're at the end of the modeling stage, so I'm making minor tweaks at this point. You can see if I try to scale those in and out, it really messes with the verts. So here's another opportunity to have to use symmetry. So I'm going to add the symmetry modifier. I'm going to turn on flip because I like to work on this side. And then go in and grab those vertices and just move them over like this. And if you turn on show on result, you can see that. So I want his legs to be a little straighter. Okay, maybe a slight bow, but mostly straight. Something like that. Okay, so they have to be bent out for rigging purposes. Double check in the front view, make sure this whole area is welding properly. If there's any issues in there, again, grab all the verts. You can isolate this. Grab all these verts down the middle and make sure they're centered. So X is set to 0. Okay, so if I turn off show end result, let's hit undo on that. And make sure you carefully select only the center verts. Alright, so I think that's better. Go to perspective, and then again, you can right click and collapse symmetry down. So collapse to, hold yes, and then just make sure there's no holes in the mesh. So it looks like everything worked properly. No holes in the mesh. Right click and end isolate, and then that is the Bob model finished for now. So the next stage is going to be unwrapping everything so that we can paint it either in Mudbox or Substance Painter, and then we'll bring it all back in here and then we can start rigging. Okay, so if you hit Shift Q, this is what we're seeing. And then we're going to save the file. And then we'll move on to the unwrapping stage.